God dang it, this is so dark. Greetings, YouTube. Yeah, it's me. Again, trying to make a video. This time trying to debunk the flat earth. Yeah, this is not too hard, really. In reality, it's not too hard. I'm trying to make this short. But basically, flat earthers can't really prove anything. They have no idea how the day-night cycle works in their flat earth model. They have no idea how seasons work. They have no idea how the sun can dip below the clouds, because we know the clouds aren't 4,000 miles away from us. You know, they really can't do anything. And I haven't really seen a really good debunking video for the flat earth. So that's what I'm going to try to do. And unfortunately, I don't have a lot of resources, so I'm going to try to have to do it from my room. Doesn't really work that great, right? Yeah. Really, since the flat earth doesn't exist, or at least it shouldn't exist, right? Because, like, personally, the only experience that I have seeing the curvature of the earth is from an airplane window, and the flat earthers blame the curvature of the window. Well, let's look at the curvature of the window. See, when you look at the airplane fuselage, the curvature of the fuselage is like this. It comes like this around. So it's a circle, right? So it is a circle at the front. It's, you have a nose, and then it goes and gets wider over the cockpit and all that, and the only flat windows that you have are inside the cockpit. Well, I've not been inside the cockpit of an airplane at cruising altitude, or ever. But, the curve of the window of a piece of glass, is not really, I'm not actually sure what they're made out of. I think they're made out of like a thick plastic. Maybe they are still made out of glass, but whatever. The curvature of the window is lateral. So basically, there's no bulge, there's no concavity, or convexness in, well, actually, technically, there is a convex on the, I guess, vertical axis, but not on the horizontal axis. So it's not distorting light. And even if it were concave, the only way it could distort light is if it were thick. So it would have to be a really thick piece of glass that is pulling the light in from multiple angles and then pushing it out on a flat plane, or a mostly flat plane in this case. It would have to be a sort of weird plane that looks like that. And the only way to get that sort of shape, to make everything look normal, I mean, you know what the plane looks like. So when you go onto the plane, you know what the plane looks like, right? Then you're on the plane, and you can see the wing, right? So the wing, you saw the wing while you boarded the plane. Then you're on the plane and you can see the wing. And you can go all over, the windows and everything, and see that the wing looks like the wing. It doesn't bend and distort and all that stuff. So what you're seeing is an accurate representation of the outside world from the window, right? So now that we've got that, look outside at cruising altitude on a clear day, and you will see a very slight curve. Flat Earth broken? Well, let's look at other evidences. I saw a flat Earth video where they're trying to say that the sun is under the clouds, flat Earth confirmed. I am convinced that this is a troll video, right? Immediate thumbs down, but let's look at it, right? If you have a ball and you have a piece of paper hovering just like a micron or so over that ball, it's just a little sliver, just like clouds. And you have a light source, and that light source is right in between. Then you might see the paper lit from underneath. That's what's happening, essentially. I guess flat earthers somehow deny it. I don't know how they explain that. I mean, again, unless the clouds just flew up 4,000 miles, and the sun ended up somehow in the clouds, you know. And of course, we're not talking full overcast day. I mean, literally, the plane is flying over the clouds. So the clouds are lit from beneath. So now the plane is flying 4,000 miles in the air. I mean, the flat Earth model is pretty consistent about how far away the sun is and how large it is, because using math, you know, they were able to work out a way to disprove the globe model based on one experiment. So the experiment where they placed two poles in the ground at different latitudes on the Earth, one was, I guess, according to Vsauce, a no shadow zone, and the other was a elongated shadow. Well, if you get a smaller light source closer to us, you know, then you can get the same exact result. And mathematically, yes, it is possible. You know, you can actually see it every day. You can have different light sources, different intensities, different, you know, bokeh effects, and all that stuff, and get a lot of different crazy results. Like I can sharpen the, you know, the shadows on my glasses to make them look more refined if I had a finer, you know, if my light source didn't look like this. So if my light source were a pinhole, then it would actually be better. And I can demonstrate that with a tiny little light source. God dang this thing, come on. Get the heck out of here. This simple. Of course, now it's on the floor. The struggle is real. We have a light source, right? Tiny. I'm going to turn off the light. Right? And this actually has a it has a switch, so I can actually put it on something. So now it's far away. It's actually further away than the light. If I turn on the light, you'll see there's this point light, and then there's this light. So it's obviously further away in 3D space. So now you see it's very dark, but you can see that the shadow on my glasses is very refined. And I'll brighten up the video so you can see it. Other than that, obviously there's not any editing that needs to be done to see the actual shadows are sharper. And that is solely because the light source is smaller. So flat Earth sun model thingy debunked. Now we have, you know, the moon. Again, solar eclipses, lunar eclipses, the only way that is possible is if there's a object between the sun and the Earth. You know, you can't have the sun being 4,000 miles away from the object and then have a lunar eclipse when the moon is behind the sun. So if the sun is bigger, I mean, that was a really easy demonstration right there. If the sun is 32 miles wide and 4,000 miles off the ground, then the moon is closer. Simple. Okay, then we have the day-night cycle. You know, if the sun and moon are always opposite each other, then it is completely and totally impossible for them to be in the sky at the same time. I'm sorry. That just debunks it right there. Also, if the sun and the moon are always over the Earth's surface, then how do we get a lunar eclipse? I mean, you could argue again that the flat Earth is a circle, but if it's always over the Earth and nothing ever dips below the horizon, and that's the majority of flat Earth models, then, you know, it's totally broken. You know, I'm sorry. And then, of course, you have gravity. The absence of gravity on a macro scale is a big deal. But on the atomic quantum scale, it's nothing. It really doesn't have any effect. So if we are to remove gravity from the equations, one fundamental force, you know, on the currently accepted model of physics, which could be incomplete. It is incomplete, but whatever, you know, then we still have the weak force, the strong force, and or just magnetism, electromagnetism, whatever you want to call it. or whatever it really is, because quite frankly, I think there's a fundamental difference between magnetism that naturally exists in materials that are relatively inert and electromagnetism, where we get a flow of electrons through a conduit, through a conductor, and that produces the same magnetic properties, but it also has other phenomena attached to it. And I'm sure humans will discover what that is, you know, later in our existence. But for now, I'm convinced that there is a slight but very important difference between distinction between the two. I was right about a lot of different things, wireless electricity and stuff like that. Nikola Tesla tried to do the wireless electricity thing. It didn't really work out. He created the Tesla coil instead, which produced a lot of actual, lightning for all intents and purposes. But it doesn't actually produce electricity. It needs electricity to run. Some flat earthers think that if you remove gravity, we get new options for energy. Some people believe the flat earth because it makes us important. And I think that's the most important thing about the flat earth model, as far as it was discussed by one person, is that it spiritually makes us important. Well, all of us think we're important. And regardless if the world was flat or round, it doesn't change the fact that biologically we are pre-programmed on a biological level to look at ourselves as pretty much the most important thing, right? If we aren't imbued with the knowledge on how to survive, then we're screwed, right? That's just pretty much how that works. Like we don't have innate knowledge of how to work, right? We learn a lot of stuff. Like when it comes to single-celled organisms or very small multicellular organisms and stuff, it starts to, seem like they're just programmed to work and know what they need to do in life and live life essentially to their maximum. But for humans, we're a really convoluted species. And most animals are actually. We rely on, first of all, copulation. So we need to have sex in order to produce offspring. So you don't come from nowhere, just so you know. And then you develop, and then you are born. If you are just left alone, you would die. If you're adopted by somebody else, then you have the same opportunities as every other living being to be cared for and treated with respect and given the knowledge you need to live in the world. Now, when we were a very young species without technology, we needed to learn how to get food and stuff like that. But now, people are just, they're living in their own little delusional fantasy lands and creating stuff that makes no sense. And it's not bad in and of itself. It's actually kind of a good thing, right? But when you're trying to actually press this knowledge onto other people like it's reality, then you're stepping on, it's just not right, And quite frankly, I think they have in some ways totally deluded themselves into believing that their theory is fact, when in reality, it's clearly not. And I just disproved like a bunch of different things, and I did that within 10 minutes, so, I feel pretty proud. And I don't want this video to be even 15 minutes long, so I'm just going to leave it at that. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope, there are more actual debunking videos that have more detail and more experiments that are, wider scale, than what I could achieve with my very limited resources and budget, obviously. So, yeah, I hope you guys have a great day. Just keep thinking reasonably and soundly, and I think you'll be fine.